Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's topic is going to be looking closer at Nurse Ratched from the story One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, I know there's currently a prequel series being shown on Netflix. I'm just going to be referring to the movie as opposed to the book as well. I'm just going to be talking about the 1975 movie, Nurse Ratched, as portrayed by Louise Fletcher. Now, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. But just as a reminder, this video are just my thoughts, my opinions on a fictional character. I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I'm not in the position to be able to diagnose anyone. Besides, she isn't real. But this video does contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie already, I would suggest you do so, and it is a pretty good movie. You might enjoy it. So who's Nurse Ratched? Well, she is the head nurse in a hospital for people with mental illnesses. Now, she likes order. Everything has its proper place. And she has all the power. She has control. She, if you will, she is the antagonist in the story. She carries herself as someone who is professional, calm, efficient, and effective. She enforces the rules in order to ensure fairness and better care for all the patients. At least as she understands fairness and better care anyway. But again, what we see is someone who likes order. Everything has its proper place. We see a discomfort in her whenever the Jack Nicholson character McMurphy is introduced. He seems to bring almost like a chaotic element to the ward, but she isn't long trying to re-establish control. For instance, whenever he refuses to accept medication orally, she gently reminds him there are other ways it can be administered. She even gives a condescending good boy whenever he takes the medication. But we also see a manipulative side to her when, for example, when McMurphy is trying to get the television station changed over to be able to watch a sports game, she manipulates the conversation to make it sound as if he's being selfish. She invites McMurphy to play what is pretty much a rigged game. You know, she uses the rules to give the impression she's being fair by asking them all to vote. But she also uses the rules to frustrate them. Constantly changes the goalposts, as it were. So what we also see is like an insincerity in her, making it look as if she's being fair, but manipulating the system in order to get things her way, to disempower and to frustrate others in order to dominate. Another example of the manipulation is when she gets the patients to talk about their fears and their shameful secrets in a group setting. Pecks away at their weak spots, if you will, their embarrassments, but does it in a very gentle way. And the men in the group feel a lot of shame, even though they haven't actually done anything wrong. But there's also a shame there because the men in the group don't seem to be able to please her. At one point, she even encourages the men to write reports in a notebook about each other, to snitch on each other, if you will. And she actually calls it therapeutic. And what she's actually doing is shaming the patients into submission, and she's doing it by posing as an angel of mercy. It's also what she's doing is a common tactic of narcissists to divide and conquer groups that they are involved with. Personally, I think she is the worst kind of workplace bully, even though I'd be pretty sure she would be the same in a lot of her different social settings. She bullies, shames, disempowers and manipulates in a very kind and matter-of-fact manner. She's always professional, she's always polite, never raises her voice, and she's able to communicate with a very feigned concern and compassion. But what we don't necessarily see with her is a lack of empathy. There is empathy there. But what I think we see is what's known as cognitive empathy, sometimes referred to as dark empathy. In other words, she is aware of the feelings of others and she is aware of the impact that she has on them. But she uses that to control and dominate, and she does it in a way that makes her untouchable. She does seem quite adept at feigning ignorance. And if anyone were to complain about her, to say something about something she's done or said, well, she hasn't actually done anything wrong. In fact, in the movie, senior members of the hospital seem to think quite highly of her. Now, towards the end of the movie, we see there's a party on the ward where one of the patients, a young man named Billy, he has a prostitute in his room. Now, as Ratched turns up and tries to regain control, we see Billy stand up for himself. We see him assert himself. But she isn't long using that dark empathy to shame and emotionally blackmail him. What she says is, "What worries me, Billy, is how your poor mother is going to take this." She knew exactly what to say. She knew exactly how to put Billy back in his box. She knew exactly how to emasculate him. The impact of what she says to Billy has Billy commit suicide. Now, her lack of insight really shines through here whenever that happens. She just defaults back to the only thing she knows, order and stability. In spite of what's just happened, in spite of everybody's shock and terror, she's saying, you know, everything back to normal, we're going to go back to doing what we do every single day and so on. McMurphy attacks her and he ends up being lobotomized. She, however, regains and remains in control. That's where we last see her, back in control, back taking the patients in their support group, but wearing a neck brace. Now, she isn't necessarily drawing attention to it, yet she does seem to be, if you will, wearing it like a badge of honour. It's almost like, look, I was hurt as well. So what is it going on with Nurse Ratched? Well, I don't think she's a sociopath, because what we see is someone here who, yes, schemes and so on, but she does it using the rules and regulations. Sociopaths tend to kick against the system, go against the rules. And she isn't necessarily impulsive either. Now, there is a callousness there and a lack of remorse, which might suggest psychopathy. And we also see someone who is quite calculating and manipulative. Remember what I said earlier about the cognitive or the dark empathy? I think in Nurse Ratched, what we see is someone who is on what's known as the Dark Triad. Now, I've made a video previously on the Dark Triad if you want to check that out. But that's when someone can have very strong traits of, say, narcissism. Now, that would be the sense of self-importance, the entitlement, believing themselves to be untouchable and special. There are also very strong traits of psychopathy, as I've previously mentioned, but not enough traits of these things for a clinical diagnosis. There is also what's known as Machiavellianism. Now, this is where we see the scheming and the manipulation, using the dark empathy to shame, divide, conquer, and emasculate the men in her care. If she's on that dark triad, what we see here, I think anyway, certainly personified in Nurse Ratched, is the worst kind of workplace narcissist, the worst kind of workplace bully, the one who acts with impunity by actually doing nothing wrong, uses rules, regulations, codes of conduct to bully, harass, and disempower everyone around her, while they all try to keep on the good side of her, which you never really can with people like that, not unless you surrender all your autonomy and your self-respect. She implies rather than threatens. She coerces from a position of virtue and righteousness. She can intimidate without actually raising her voice or swearing. She uses her authority to bring structure and then takes advantage of it. She is, if you will, she is in a position of responsibility, but she abuses her power to abuse those she is charged with caring for. She is the devil disguised as an angel of light. Now, Louise Fletcher summed her up by saying she believes she's right. And I think she's right, but then don't all narcissists believe they're right? Now, regardless of how bad things are in her charge, you know, she would be the first to point out what everyone else has done to cause the chaos. So, they're my thoughts on Nurse Ratched. Now, if you have any comments, please use the comment box below. Perhaps you disagree, or perhaps there's something I've missed when I was watching the movie. If you like this video, if you find it helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel for future updates on mental health related topics. And until next time, thanks for watching.